Hello and welcome to a video from Haybridge High School's Maths department. In this video I will be comparing / ordering different types of numbers. Our first question starts off with Anne has made a table to show her results in the following tests. The question is asking us to put Anne's result into ascending order. So the first thing we need to know is what is ascending order. Well, ascending order is when we put numbers in order from smallest to largest. So if I just make a quick note here, so smallest to largest. Okay, so first question starts off nice and simple. We can just order these numbers straight away because all their denominators are the same. So when the denominator is the same, we can just focus on the numerator, and whichever number is smallest, that will be our smallest fraction. So looking at our 5 fractions, 1/10 is the smallest, so we can write 1/10 here. I'm just going to put S above so we just know what subject that result was in. Our next one, so not including 1/10, our next smallest would be 3/10, which was history. Next one would be geography with 5/10. Next one we'd have 6/10, which is, English. And finally, our last one, which is 7/10, is maths. So there's that question answered. We have put it into ascending order. It's going from smallest to largest. So our next example, sticking with the same format, Anne's got results in a table and we need to put them into ascending order. So the difference with this question and our previous question, our fractions don't have common denominators. So our first step here will make them have common denominators. So to do this, we need to look at our multiples of 2, 8 and 4. So I would start off just by writing them down. Write down your 2 times tables and write down your 8s and your 4s and see if there's a number that crops up that is common in the 3. So if we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20, and stop there because we've gone quite high. So next one, so if we've got 8, where am I? 8, 16, I can look there and I can actually see that 8's a common multiple and 16. So if we stop there and we have a look at 4, so 4, 8, 12, 16. So if we stop there, so if we compare our 3 list, we can actually see that 8 is our lowest common factor. So if I just circle them, so we have an 8 in our 2 times tables, an 8 in our 8 times tables, and an 8 in our 4 times tables. So we can rewrite our fractions with the denominator all having a common factor of 8. Okay, so first one, a half. So I'm going to rewrite this with the denominator as 8. So what I do to the bottom, I need to do to the top. So what have I times 2 by to get 8? Well, I've times it by 4. So 2 times 4 gets me 8. So 1 times 4 to get me 4. So next one, we have an 8th. Do I need to do anything here? No, it's already written over 8. So I can just carry on and write 1/8. So next one, a quarter. So denominator's not 8 here, I need to convert it so it's all over 8. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top, so I'm timesing 2. 4 by 2 to get me 8, so I would do 1 times 2 on the top. Next one, we've got 3 quarters. So like our last one, I've times 4 by 2 to get me 8. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I need to do 3 times 2, which is 6. And our last one, 5 over 8. Don't need to do anything with this one because it's already over 8. So now that they're all over the common denominators, I can order them just like our previous example. So just look at our numerators here. So our numbers on the top of the fraction, we need to pick our smallest one. So our first smallest would be here, is an 8. So I'm just going to circle it as 1, so I know that that is 1 in my list. So looking at the top again, excluding 1/8, my next would be 2 over 8, so that would be 2. Then I've got 4 over 8, 5 over 8, and 6 over 8. That's a 5. Lovely. So now I need to rewrite these in order, but I need to make sure that I give them in the form that we were given. So these currently aren't in their simplest form. We have just made them so it's easier for us to work with. So their simplest form is the form that they've been given to us in the question. So 4 over 8. So that originally was a half. So if I was to write 4 over 8, I would need to write a half instead. But that's not our smallest, so our smallest one was 1 over 8. Looking at it back previously, we haven't changed it, we can write it as 1 over 8. So second one in my list, so where I've put 2 in a circle, was 2 over 8. How was that first originally written? So I just need to look above my working out. It was a quarter, so I would write a quarter. Number 3 in my list was 4 over 8. So what was that originally? It was a half. So I would write a half. Next in my list was 5 over 8. Again, we haven't changed this, so I can just write it as 5 over 8. And our last one, 6 over 8, which is 3/4. And I finished with 3/4. So there we go, our results have been put into ascending order. You might want to label them, but it doesn't specifically ask for that in the question. So our next question, same as our previous, we've got Anne's results for her tests, and we need to put them into ascending order. Haven't got all fractions this time, we've actually got fractions and decimals, so the first thing we need to do is that we need to make them all into the same, so they either need to all be decimals, all be fractions. Choice is up to you, but in this example I'm going to change them all into fractions. So if you're uncertain how to change decimals into fractions, you might need to go back into our previous equivalency video just to double check, so just so you know, make sure you know what you're doing. So our first one, I'm just going to rewrite them. So we've got maths as an 8th, English, so I'm just going to label them as well, maths, English, science, history, and geography. Okay, so we need to change our English and our geography into a fraction. So we can actually rewrite 0.2 as a fraction as 1 over 5. Don't need to do anything for science and history because they're already fractions. And then geography, 0.75 is actually 3 over 4 as a fraction. So now they're all in fractions. We know our next step. We know that we need to find a common denominator for them all. So we need to write down our multiples again. So we need to write down our multiples of 8. I'm going to write it in red just for working out. So my 8's times table, I would write 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. Stop there for now. I can extend it if I need to. We've got 5 times table, so we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I'm just going to go to 40. Next we've got our 10 times tables, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then we've got our 4 times table, so 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I'm going to extend because I can see from my last 2 times tables that most likely 40 is going to be a common multiple. So we've got 24, 28, 32, 36 and 40. Yep, so we've got 40 in our 8 times tables, 5 times tables, 10 times tables and our 4 times tables. So we now need to rewrite our fractions with a denominator of 40. So I can write in now that we have 40 for our denominators. Okay, so what we do to the bottom, we need to do to the top. So what have I timesed 8 by to get me 40? Well, if we look at our 8 times table, we can count up. So we've got 8, 16, 24, 32 and 40. So we're timesing it by 5. And what we do to the bottom, we need to do to the top. So if I've times the bottom by 5, I'm timesing the top by 5, getting me 5 on the top. So next one, I've got 1/5. The denominator is going to be 40. So what do I times 5 by to get me 40? It's going to be 8. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I will get 8 at the top. Next one, we've got 3/10. So what do I times 10 by to get 40? I times it by 4. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So 4 times 3 would get me 12. Next one, what do I times 4 by to get me 40? Times it by 10. So what's 10 times 1? It's 10. So you're going to get 10/40. And last one is the same as our previous, timesing it by 10. So we need to do 10 times 3, which is 30. So just rewrite our fractions out just so we know. Give myself a bit more space so we know when we're doing questions like these we're going to take up quite a lot of space. Okay, so these are our equivalent fractions. So now that we have it, the denominators all the same, we can just focus on our numerators and we can just order from smallest to largest looking at our numerators. So our first one will be 5/40, so I'm just going to put a 1 there. So our next smallest, not including 5/40, will be 8/40, so I'll put 2 there. Third one is 10/40. Then we have fourth one is 12/40, and our last one is 30/40. Okay, so we need to remember when we give our answers, they need to be in the form that they were given in the question. So I'm just going to make sure, so we have written these maths, English, science, history and geography. So this is maths, English, science, history, and geography. So it's important to make sure that you don't get them muddled up because we need to because when we convert them back, they're not going to be in fractions anymore. Some of them are going to be decimals. Our English we know needs to be in a decimal. In geography we know it needs to be in a decimal. Right, so maths. Our first number is maths, so maths originally was an 8th. Our second in our list was English. English originally was 0.2. Third in our list is history. History originally was 1/4. Fourth in our list was science. Science was actually 3/10. And our last in the list, geography, was actually a decimal, which was 0.75. So there we go, we've answered the question. We have put the results into ascending order, smallest to biggest, and we have given them in the results that they were given in the question. So our last example, same format. Anne's got her results table and we're putting them into ascending order. Just this time we have fractions, decimals and percentages. So again, if you're not certain how to change a percentage into a fraction, you need to go and watch our equivalence videos and make sure that you're secure on this skill. If you want to change them all into decimals or percentages, that's fine, but again for this video I'm going to stick with my fractions. So let's rewrite them. So maths, we have 1/4, 0.2 for English, 45% for science, 60% for history, and 0.75 for geography. So let's just label these quickly. Maths, English, science, history, and geography. Okay, so we rewrite these as fractions. Maths we don't need to do anything with because it's already as a fraction. Decimals, we've already done this one in our previous example, so we know that it's 1/5. Fractions, percentages are always out of 100, so if you're uncertain, we can always write 45/100 and then we can simplify it down into a simplest form. Once we've done that, we will be left with 9/20. 60%, same again, percentages out of 100, so we can write 60/100, simplify it down and we're left with 3/5. And 0.75, same as our previous example, it would be 3/4. So at this stage we have 5 fractions, but they're not all common denominators, so I would again start off by writing our times tables. So if we write 4 times tables, so 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Write our 5 times tables, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then we need our 20 times tables. So I'm only going to write 20 for this one because I can see that I've got 20 in my 4 times tables and my 5 times tables, so there's not much point in me writing any more. So we can see now that 20 is going to be our common denominator. So we need to rewrite our fractions over 20. So we can go ahead and write our denominators. Okay, so let's look at our first one. So what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So what have we times 4 by to get 20? Again, if you're uncertain, go back to your times tables, count them up. We can see that we have timesed it by 5. So 3 times 4 by 5 to get 20, 1 by 5 gets us 5. So next fraction, we've got 1/5. What have we times 5 by to get 20? We've timesed it by 4. So what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So 4 times 5 gets us 20. So 4 times 1 gets us 4. So the next one, well, it's actually already written over 20, so I don't need to do anything with that one. I can just rewrite it there for you. So next one, what have we timesed 5 by to get 20? Done this one previously, we timesed it by 4. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So what will 3 times 4 be? 12. And our last one, what have I times 4 by to get 20? Times it by 5. So I need to do 5 times 3, which will get us 15. Okay, so I'm going to go on to another page now, get a bit more spaced for me. So we'll write these down again so we have them clear for us. Okay, so if we just label these up with the subjects as well, because it will help us. So we've done maths, English, science, history and geography. So now we need to order them. We can order them because all the denominators are the same, so we just need to focus on the numerators. So what is our smallest numerator? It's going to be English, so I'm just going to label that 1. Our next smallest, not including our 4/20, will be maths. Then there'll be science, history and geography. Okay, so our last step, we need to remember, we need to give them in the results that they've given us in the chart. So we need to just make sure that we write them as a fraction, decimal or percentage, depending on what it originally was. So our first in the list is English. So if we look back into our chart, it was actually 0.2. Our second in the list is maths, which was 1/4. Our third in the list is science, which was 45%. Fourth in the list was history with 60%. And our final one was geography, which was 0.75. So there we go. We've written Anne's results in ascending order. So from smallest to biggest, we've made sure that we have written the answer in the results that have come in the question. We have looked at fractions, decimals and percentages. And that is the end of today's video.